he became stronger than Thrag, and the most powerful in history. In fact, in issue 132, Thrag straight up rips Mark in half from his shoulder to his hip, and I think this is where the big difference maker occurs. I see a lot of people talk about how strong Mark is online, but very rarely do people bring up this moment. Thrag leaves Mark and Eve dismembered on the floor dying. This is where Eve's powers kick in and she completely rebuilds their bodies. Here, Mark does a double take and asks her if she made him stronger, and she says, at least a little, yes. However, that raises the question in my mind of how much stronger would Mark need to be made for him to notice the increase whilst just standing there? It isn't like he's trying to lift anything or testing his speed. Just by simply existing, he can feel more power flowing through him. And not for nothing, he mentions this change in strength before even asking Eve if she was able to save his brother. All I'm saying is that I'd have to be going Super Saiyan to put that before checking if my sibling's alive.
He's out of line, but he's right.
And so if Mark was already on par with the rest of Viltrum, this bump up is pretty damn significant, which we will see in the final battle with Thrag and his bug children. You see, these kids would be stronger than just your average Earth superhero, as we can use Oliver as a perfect example. He easily killed the Mauler twins by accident, a set of reoccurring heroes that caused havoc on Earth. Oliver could even cause damage to more veteran Viltrumites. When Nolan is fighting Thrag, he is so much stronger that Nolan's fist literally crumples when he's trying to punch him. Ultimately, Thrag just ends up ripping him in half. Just as we saw when Eve died the first time, this gave Mark enough anger to instantly kill and escape from 10 of Thrag's children who are holding him down before fighting Thrag himself. Unlike his father, when Mark launches an attack against Thrag, it actually works. On the contrary, when Thrag tries to hit Mark, he isn't doing nearly as much damage as he was against Nolan. There is so much of a difference that Thrag goes on the defensive, and rather than getting up close, he opts to grab his children and throw them at Mark so hard that they explode on impact. Now, despite being hit by what are essentially Viltrumites turned into bullets, Mark is more or less unharmed. He even has enough energy left to grapple Thrag and push him into the sun. Now, whilst Thrag still has an upper hand, Mark is fighting on more or less even footing and even pulls Thrag into the core of the star, where both of their skins instantly begin melting away. And then Mark even begins winning the fight. Luckily, Mark puts on a suit of robot's armor which buys him just enough time that his body is burning away slightly slower, with those few seconds being enough for Alan to swoop in and save him as Thrag disintegrates. At the end of issue 140, Mark has successfully defeated Thrag, but his body is left as a charred husk. However, within just a few days, he's back to his normal self, which just proves that his healing abilities have improved so much. With Thrag defeated, Mark stands as the strongest character alive, with Alan just behind him. At this point, I feel the need to point out that Mark is in his 20s. Remember that bit I said about how Viltrumites get stronger with age? Yeah. He is made the Emperor of Viltrum, and Mark leads on a mission of spreading peace across the universe. By the time Alan calls him for a meeting, both of them have aged considerably. Mark even has some grey hair coming in. Eve at this point is shown to be so old that she looks like a raisin, so we'll assume like 75 years have passed. And by this time, Mark is miles stronger than Alan. Hell, after their fight, the only damage I can see on Mark is like a little scratch in his temple. Even his clothes aren't dirty. Do you know how bad you gotta beat someone to leave them in a pile of rubble like this without getting white clothes dirty? Now, like I said, Alan is strong. Stronger than Omni-Man for sure, especially considering that the closer Alan comes to death, the stronger he becomes. Thus, after an assassination attempt was performed on him, he became one of the strongest characters in the entire universe. Despite this though, Invincible started his mission of spreading peace across the universe. And as we know, not everything out there is friendly. Thus, it's safe to assume that Mark has seen his fair share of battles since defeating Thrag, contributing to his power levels increasing dramatically. Most notably seen when we get one final look at how powerful Mark had become in issue 144 as an assassination attempt is performed on him, only for Mark to just sit there unfazed as the giant sword breaks on impact. The alien king responsible for this begs for forgiveness and offers his own life in exchange for his people's safety, as he's that afraid of what Mark is capable of. Based on how fast Mark has developed already and how much of his life he has left, it's really hard to say just how strong he could end up becoming. And so when Robert Kirkman says that he believes Invincible could beat Superman in a fight, he's still probably chatting out his arse. Now, if you want to enjoy more peak fiction, then you better click on this video right here.